You. Today is Friday, the 7th of August, 2026. My name is Francisco Gaffney, and this is my daily streaming all about governance, risk, compliance, and advisory boards. So, this week I build one idea day by day. So, the main idea is that the founder, the executive team, or the board that believes or what they believe needs proof, right? So when they need proof, whatever you believe, if you don't provide that evidence, sometimes it's very hard to go to market and get funding, entice shareholders or your customers, your supply chains, etc. It's a lot of problems. Now, not I'm not looking this into a negative way. I'm making this week very practical. So I went through the four milestones of the advisory board operating system model. So we spoke about scaling, predictability, systems. Today I'm going to talk about edge, what it makes your company, the transformation of your company, the frontiers, the innovations, and how to put all this together into a 90-day advisory board action plan, right? And remember, these plans doesn't require to be perfect. It doesn't require to be, we have to change everything. No, the plan is exclusively to understand where you are today, where you want to be tomorrow, and where you're coming from, right? And the idea is to know the unknowns, or at least to have build an awareness of those things that can be improved. And remember this principle of the aggregation of the minimal multiples, the 1% rule, as they call it. So 1% improvement on each month of the year compound at practically 36%, or almost around 36% improvement throughout the year, because it starts to compound. And this is a massive progression in your organization. You can imagine if today you're wanting to grow 2-3%, imagine if you can do adjustments, not really changes, adjustments and implementations of 1 or 2%, let's say 3% per year, per month, you get about 36% improvement at the end of the year. So that's the reason why when people show these models, it all seems very theoretical and leaves you wondering who is going to implement these and what business outcomes are going to get or produce for my company. So as a result of that thinking, this week I was talking all about making it very practical, so you can bring home a precise blueprint of what to do, when, and with whom. And today, specifically, we are going to talk about your edge, your frontier, your performance. The company performance is not the same as the KPIs. It's what the company is supposed to do at the time they're supposed to do the things they have to do and deliver those results. Also, we're going to look into strategies and branding, and when and then we're going to bring the whole week together. I'm going to give you today the blueprint where you can, in one page, you can address the next 90 days of work if you're willing to do so. This is where perhaps many founders and boards feel or become a bit defensive. I say, listen, as I mentioned, we know what we're doing. We come from a long story up to this point. What else you going to teach us? Not much. The thing is just to organize the things in a way that you can start to see the same thing from a different point of view and try to find solutions or workflows or improvements in a very tiny portions that actually create a massive outcome after a few quarters. Because we are no longer asking whether the product works. We are asking perhaps a different question. The question is, what makes a company valuable when you as a founder or your executive team or your non-executive directors are required in a different place at the same time, the same day, right? So this is not about, if you leave for 30 days, what happened? No, this is today. If you're required, and probably it happens, that you have to juggle in terms of your agenda, which is a priority, what makes a bigger impact? Well, this will help to answer those questions. So usually what happens is you identify that somebody's carrying the story, explain the product better than anybody else, persuade partners, reassure customers, excite investors, resolve difficult issues. But that makes the company feel larger than it is, because it all is a dependency on somebody. So that is not a strength, really. Is like stretching the fabric too much. So it's a point where you cannot stretch it further because it breaks, and the frame is still demanding things. So reach a point where you stay there and you stall because you cannot go anywhere else. So that's your frontier, your border. You cannot go further than that. So what could make your company go further is address these dependency problems. So let's take a look at three things about this. Number one is a false edge, as I call it. So the false edge sounds confidence, right? Sounds like confidence. And here's the things that I heard that actually, this is things that I really heard from founders. We are different. No, you're not. We create a new category. No, you haven't. We are a platform, not a product. No, you're not. The market will understand. No, we'll never understand because you're not explaining this, you are selling it. So other thing that I heard is the normal rules doesn't apply to our company. No, you have to comply with all the rules. So and this is a big problem. You hear that. I heard that many, many times. It's not something I'm making up. So I took the time to think of these statements because I heard them from very, very capable people. They are convinced that this is the case. It is not, unfortunately. So they might be true. They might be true in your mind, but until they are supported by evidence, they remain just claims. And a claim is not yet a strategic asset. So you have to convert those claims into strategic assets. So be careful when you're saying these things, because actually on the other side, people already run a few times around these blogs and they understand better, probably better than you, what you're trying to say. So you have to be careful how you say it. It's better to gather a good feedback and reconvene, regroup, and come back than actually be a stubborn person and say, no, we are a new category, we are different. Yes, you may be, but actually you don't have any proof of that yet. So prove it, right? So it's a pain in the back, but actually it's a reality of many founders or many companies. Problem number two is that comparison stories replace proof. Now here's a big pitfall because many companies are falling into this. The company compares itself with a successful global business, and you are $1 million company yet. You cannot compare yourself with Apple. Even if your humble beginnings started like Apple, you cannot compare yourself with Apple. Well, it's not that you cannot. You can, but the proof is already that actually you are not Apple today. If you were Apple, we wouldn't be talking, right? I'm sorry I'm very harsh on this position, but actually you have to understand actually if you're going to go to the next frontier of your organization, you have to look in. I'm bringing this to the table to make sure that you don't repeat these mistakes as many other founders and many other executive teams brings to the investors, to the shareholders, to their teams in their organization. And people start to believe things that they are smoke. They are not reality. So the founder says the market is following a similar pattern, like a comparison with Apple or to IBM or to you name it. The story feels ambitious and impressive, right? But the board or yourself as a founder needs to ask what the comparison proves. What this comparison is proving. That let me ask you a few questions. Does the company have the same customer economics? Like the first question, say, oh, yeah, you're like Apple. Okay, which is the customer economics of Apple and you? You cannot answer that question, right? Or do you have the same operating capability as Apple had in the 80s? Oh, by the way, the 80s is not the 2000, even the 2026 as we are today. So Apple was not leveraging AI as all the companies are leveraging today. So you cannot compare yourself with Apple, even if manufacturer software. So it's the same. Do you have the same intellectual property protection, or the same distribution strength, or the same leadership depth, right? So when you start to compare yourself with large organizations and the path that they went through, be careful, because just when you insert AI, these two letters into the conversation, you are not talking about the same thing. You are far apart from one to the other. And obviously the 30 or 40 years gap between the example or the proof that you're trying to compare yourself with and the reality today. So Thinking big is very, very useful, but borrowing someone else's proof, it is not. Unfortunately, it is not. So I'm just sharing this with you, so you see what investors, shareholders, and other people on the other side of the table hear and compare you with, or actually start to dissect your comparisons and say, probably not. And this is far, far, far stretch from the reality that you're living and what you're saying. Now, problem number three is a drift. So you start to drift, or your team start to drift. So you keep speaking to partners, redefining the story, chasing investor, and pushing for market entry. So the activity looks positive, right? Because it's a lot of movement, but the market keeps responding with the same message. So the bounce of your activities, the evidence is not clean enough yet. Back to the example of when you're comparing yourself with other organizations. So the company argues when it should be building proof. You start to argue as the things I would say. We are different category. We are unique in the market. The market will understand. No, you need to build proof. That is how a strong opportunity becomes very, very messy, because you are pushing through what you believe instead of building evidence on proof of what is the case. So this is like joining the motorway, right? So you're coming from a side road to join the motorway, and you say, we are going to go our way. But there are rules, there are processes, there are protocols and how you join the motorway, particularly in these autobahns where people go at speed, right? It doesn't matter if you have six or four lanes. You have to join in the lane that you have to join and match the speed to join them if you have space to join. If you don't have space to join, unfortunately, you have to wait there until the right place is allocated or are naturally provided, or other drivers make space for you to join. So it's not that you are boxed into something else. Is that the system works in a way that you have to join that system, and then you can do more things. Like if you want to go faster, move to the left. If you want to slow down, move to the right. Right, with all the protocols that you have to put in place, like the signals, the watching the mirrors. Anyway, all these things. I'm bringing this example very silly, but actually just to make sure that you understand how it looks when you are trying to join certain systems in terms of financing, opportunities, connections, distributions, etc. And you try to plow your way in the way that you've been doing things, and people start to look at you and say, well, what are you doing? No, we're not going to work with you. But they're not saying that way, but they look at you, or you feel that rejection. It's not a rejection of you as a person, it's actually the proof of your claims are not there and strong enough. People say, yeah, we are going to make room for you to join us in the motorway and pull all together in the same direction for the same destination, right? Now, this is, as a board, as I mentioned, I forgot to mention what we are working here today. We are looking into this section, brand, strategy, and performance. But now we are going to, in order to respect your time, I'm going to go right into the blueprint that I use. And I'm going to bring this right away so you can follow along as I explain what to do. So this is a blueprint that I use, and this is very useful because this will help you to put your company into a position that is very attractive for investors, your shareholders, the market entries, distributors, partnerships, etc. So this is a 90-day plan, and it's very easy to implement. You just follow along, so it's not a big deal here. So let me put it this way. So it has 4 boxes, as you can see, which is scale, predictability, systems, and edge. And for each box, write 4 things, which is the biggest assumption, the missing proof, who is the owner, and the next action. And then you use this rhythm. During the first days, day 1 to 30, diagnose and gather proofs, right? So build scorecards, map the assets, test the founder assumption, your assumptions, name those gaps. And once you have that, move into the day 31 to 60 and clean the biggest risks. And clean, I mean clarify ownership, fix the numbers, tighten the contracts, improve the control evidence, move founder knowledge into repeatable assets across your teams and your organization. And lastly, on the day 61 to 90, turn that evidence into a case the market can use. So have a board plan, a funding pack, a market entry case. Remember the entry into the motorway? Well, this is the things that you have to put together. A strategic partnership proposal, due diligence rooms, right? So, and then review it with your board, because when you review it with your board or your strategic team, you're going to get you're going to get a further question. For example, who should stay for the next stage? And this, we are talking about the advisory board. So people that actually are helping as the stages of this process goes, or which capabilities no longer needed. For example, if you're looking into accounting and next stage is marketing, do you really need to stay with this person for too long or not? So which new specialist needs to come into the organization, the advisory board? And that is why the rotating model matters. And probably I went ahead of, but actually I mentioned this earlier this week. The advisory board is important because you can change or swap members as the projects evolve, right? So you build around the live milestone in these 30, 60, 90 days. That may include marketing, entry, capital readiness, intellectual property, tax, governance, risk, well, you name it. So you get that capability faster than hiring one executive to build this plan. So then you have an advisory board that can produce these results or help you to produce the results, and you can change the member every 6 months afterwards as you go deeper into the plan to execution. So every 6 months you change the members as the expertise is needed. So then you have the capabilities. You're not stuck with one person to trying to pull all together. You have 3 or 4 people that rotate every 6 months. And this is way much cheaper and more efficient than hire one consulting firm and lock you in a big retainer and making your company poor cash or pay a lot of fees and consulting fees when you can have that in a different place and different time. Now, I'm probably going ahead myself, but here is the secret sauce, if you may. The advisory board, when the work changes, the expertise should change with it, right? And you can do that change every 6 months. Now, let's pause it here for today and reconvene next week. Have a fantastic weekend, and I'm going to leave this template in LinkedIn in a post that I'm going to put later on today, so you can copy and paste it and try to implement it with your team. And if you need help, reach out and be very happy to have a conversation. So to understand where you are, where you're coming from, where you are today, where you would like to go, and how an advisory board operating system can help you to achieve those goals. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk next week. Bye.